Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! So, to give some background, I used to work at Walmart when I was 18. I walked to and from home for work to keep up my house, and often stopped at Target to flirt with the girl I was with. A simple, innocent thing that was my way of showing her that I cared for her and that I was most likely to sleep all day from working a 10-hour graveyard shift. Now let me tell you, if you haven't ever been inside a Walmart or Target, but the colors are blue for Walmart and red for Target. And since I spend a lot of time in Walmart to spend time with my girlfriend, I knew the staff pretty well. And since the store manager was her father, I was in good favor with him. Partially because he thought it was funny I'd rather buy from Target than Walmart. On this particular day, I was tired after working several weeks, without a day off, because some people just don't like to show up for work. So with a lack of coffee in my system, lack of relaxation, and tense since my girlfriend was moody at the time, I looked like hell. The cast. Me, wearing the Walmart blue with black dress pants and tennis shoes, as well as a vest with my name tag and tag with manager on it, entitled Broad, girlfriend obviously, a store manager. So I just got done with talking to my girlfriend for about an hour, which was actually a nice time because she was having a good morning at the time, and needed to grab some games for my game console as well as some clothes and food. So I moved from the pharmacy, where my girlfriend worked at. I went to the food aisles to get some junk food and energy drinks. Now is probably the time to tell you that I used to be a stalker and had really bad OCD and always put things where they belong. Well, I put fruits and veggies back where they are on my way, and I guess this meant I worked there, despite me wanting to be a good customer and keep things orderly. So far, I was in a decent mood, but little did I know that chaos was on the horizon. On my way to get some clothes, this young, beautiful woman walked up to me with a really pissed off vibe rolling off her. She walks up to me, sees the manager badge on my obvious Walmart outfit, and starts to yell at me in a foreign language as fast and nonsensical as she possibly can. And this is how it went down. When I found out what she was saying, ma'am, please calm down. Karen, taking a few deep breaths but keeping her death glare on me, you dumb witch, you've been ignoring me and think it's okay to tell me what to do? Now tell me where the electronics aisle is and help me find a game for my fiancé, she had said, emphasizing on fiancé heavily, as if I'm attracted to her. While she's very beautiful, she didn't hold a candle to the woman I was with at the time, and looking back at it, she still didn't. Me looking around at the large signs that tell people what section they are in and shrugging, I was in a good mood and did not want to have to deal with an idiot. Yeah, it's over there. I have things to pick up before I go home, so you should find an actual employee, I say, trying to be as polite as possible, not wanting to have her go off more since I have already dealt with several that same night. You do work here. I can see your name tag and position. Is this really how management treats paying customers? She had way more color language, and I don't feel like repeating every cuss word that came from her lips as they were things that I would never say to any decent human being. I tell her, I work at Walmart, not Target. Do you know what store this is? I asked, knowing that I fricked up as the words just slid from my mind to my mouth without a filter. It probably didn't help that I kept my smiling manager face on the whole time as I spoke. No, you work here at Target. You're wearing their uniform, so don't talk down to me. I'm going to report you and have your job just so I can drop it like the garbage is, she said, practically yelling and screaming obscenities at me. Now, at this point, my morning is ruined and I just wanted to get home, so I turn around to leave, which is apparently forbidden by whatever god this lady believes in, because she grabbed my arm and pulled me back so hard that I stumbled back. Either she was super strong or I'm just so tired I'm physically weak. She keeps yelling and screaming at me, calling for the store manager for a good half an hour before he shows up, but not before she hits me several times and my whole body just looks dead as I take the hits, trying to think about what my girlfriend would feel if I slit her throat. Fortunately, my girlfriend had a tight rein on my anger at the time, and I knew that if I were to lay a hand on this Karen, that it would be me in a coffin, not this witch. The store manager shows up and asks, "Is there a..." She cuts him off. "This lazy employee is talking back to me and not helping a paying customer. I make more in a day than he makes in a month. And his entitled behavior is going to go into the public if he isn't fired right away and banned from the store." She yelled at the top of her lungs, screaming much more profanity than any website is allowed to have, pointing at me and jabbing the store manager's shirt hard enough to knock him back. At this time, the sheriff, who was off duty and getting food for his own business, walks up and starts talking, while he waits for some cops to get to the target and to the drama. I guess he didn't want to have to work on his day off, which was fine. It's the thought of him being there that was nice. By this time, I am zoning out, so there are some gaps in my memory, but it went down like this. The store manager, who knows me personally, and my girlfriend get into it with the irate idiot. The cops had her restrained, and I tell you this now, the look on my girlfriend's face could make rivers run cold, and she was way more hardcore than the store manager was. And that's when she started yelling, saying that I touched her inappropriately and tried raping her. Me, half dead and restraining myself because honestly, I feared for my life. Not because the entitled broad was there, but because my girlfriend was the scariest person I knew. And she was right there listening to this girl go off, and when the police went to ask me about what happened, she was listening intently. Not wanting to believe the woman because we had been friends since first grade, which is a messed up story for another time and place, I simply end up telling them to look at the cameras, but that I needed to sleep because I worked later that day to help train newbies out the stalking zone. Unfortunately, I was declined my sleep, and they took me back to a waiting area as they looked over the tapes and had the entitled broad escorted off the property. I'm in handcuffs and completely asleep. I remember waking up when they took off the cuffs and they let me go. Well, I guess some stories do have happy endings because my girlfriend was let off early to drive me to her place to sleep, and I was given everything I had in my cart for free. As for the entitled broad, she was dragged off and put into jail for God knows how long, and her fiancé was one of the new guys I had to train. He was actually a decent person who liked the same things I did. How did he end up with a witch like her? When he found out it was me that she had harassed and hit, he offered to buy me a soda and a pack of smokes, which I only took up the offer for smokes, and that struck up a great friendship that has to this day, after I ended up moving across the country and he and my girlfriend at the time got together and are now married. Happy endings all around. Buckle up. This one's long. I was visiting a friend who owns and operates a trailer park. Basically, his house is the main office. A couple had just moved into a lot with their mobile home. The dude seemed fine, and him and his girlfriend had just had their first kid. Well, at 3 a.m., just a few hours after I arrived, the boyfriend showed up at my friend's house, the main office. Apparently, he had a DNA test done and he found out the kid wasn't his. So while the girlfriend was still in the hospital, he started freaking around on her to get back at her. Well, earlier that day, she got released from the hospital and he refused to go pick her up. So she walked from the hospital to the trailer park, easily 20 miles. And found him with this girl. She went ape crap. She started trashing their tiny mobile home while he and his mistress quickly got their clothes on, and the boyfriend opted to drive the mistress back to her place. When he got back, his soon-to-be ex-girlfriend locked him out of their mobile home. So at 3 a.m. he showed up at the front office to call the police. My buddy woke me up, filled me in on the situation, and I went out to his living room to keep the dude company. I explained that if this kid isn't his and he signed a birth certificate, he has 60 days to remove himself from the birth certificate. Otherwise, he'll be on a hook for child support. I also explained that while calling the cops is a good idea, they likely won't be able to remove her from the mobile home since she had established residency. Well, the cops showed up, knocked on the door, and she answered. And the cops just did a welfare check on a kid. They left and he was allowed back into the mobile home by his soon-to-be ex. It would have been nice if that were the end. Nope, not even close. Not even 30 minutes after the cops left, the dude came back up to the main office and said he needed to call the cops again. She stole his car. From what he said, she even tried to run him over before she sped off into the night. Before the cops could get back to the park, she came back and she started doing donuts in my buddy's yard. She ran over his garden and just fricked up his yard. She finally stopped about a minute before the police arrived. The cops got out of their cruiser and arrested this chick on the spot. The charge? Misdemeanor malicious mischief. They charged her for ruining my buddy's garden, and that was it. A day passed and the crazy lady got released on bond. She came back to their mobile home and got right back into it with her soon-to-be ex. During the fight, she started scratching at her throat until she had left a lasting mark. She called the cops, claimed he laid hands on her, and the cops came and arrested him for domestic violence. The cops took the kid and placed him in protective custody. As an aside, I know that she fabricated the "he beat me" story because she bragged about it after the cops left. She even went so far as to call the dude's parents and brag about getting their son locked up. Now my buddy is freaking out. He's got a crazy lady on his property. Crazy lady that has no income, and she just had their only source of income locked up and subsequently fired for being locked up. There is no way in hell they are going to pay rent anytime soon. He wants her gone, but legally he has no recourse because they aren't past due on rent. Another day passed and homie was still locked up, and the crazy lady had started throwing all of their belongings into the yard of their lot and partially onto my buddy's property. My buddy told her she needed to clean up her yard by 6 p.m. or he would write up a violation. She ignored him. An hour or so after that, I was helping my buddy move some stacks of bricks in his backyard, which was right next to the lot her boyfriend had rented. And the entire time she was just talking to herself. She wasn't talking to herself in a normal way, no, she was yelling random crap like, "Minimum wage and they fired me, $10 an hour and they fired me, $35K a year and they fired me, motherfuckers." Or something like, "I just want to enjoy my life in peace, but they won't freaking let me. I'll kill them." We decided it would be best not to acknowledge her at all. We stopped working and went back inside for some lunch. Then we saw the smoke. This crazy witch was piling up her own stuff and lit the pile on fire on my buddy's property, not even on her own lot. My buddy called the cops, who arrived in record time along with the fire department. They arrived to find her with a lighter and a can of gasoline in her hands. She had the water running and she tried to go turn it off, but the cops stopped her. My buddy opted to turn the water off for her, so he went and turned the water off to her mobile home. She screamed her head off at my buddy for doing that, despite the cops telling him to go ahead and do it. The fire department put out the fire and the cops put handcuffs on her and stuffed her into their cruiser. I thought to myself, finally, this crazy witch is getting put away for arson. Nope. The fire marshal refused to come investigate, so it couldn't be classified as arson. The cops wrote her a citation and released her. My buddy told the cops he wanted to press charges for trespassing as she had started the fire on his property. The cops advised that they couldn't because they would need to show intent. She needed to know she was trespassing, in other words. Since there wasn't a clear marker indicating that she was, the cops couldn't arrest her for it. So my buddy told the cops where his property started and asked if the cop would explain that to her so that when she inevitably does trespass again, they will be able to arrest her. The cop agreed. He explained where her property ended and that she was under no circumstances to step foot on my buddy's land. As the cops were leaving, she looked at me and my buddy and said, "You're lucky I don't bash your heads in with my baseball bat." Followed quickly by, "I am going to blow your freaking heads off, motherfuckers." The cops had their windows rolled down, but they did nothing. They just left. An hour passed and we see the crazy witch standing in the middle of the street, stopping every car that passed. Finally, one of them pulled into the park, parked on my buddy's property, and let her use their cell to call the cops. Why was she calling the cops? Well, she tried to get them to come arrest my buddy for turning her water off for her, on police orders. Since she was standing on my buddy's property to call the cops, he whipped out his phone and recorded her standing on his property. Then he called the cops himself. When the cops came, she was certainly surprised when they put her in handcuffs immediately. The cop who had responded before, the one who explained to her where her land ended, came over, watched the video my buddy recorded on his cell, and then he explained that he would not be arresting her for trespassing. He was going to do an emergency order of detention. Basically, she was going to be forcefully taken to the closest hospital where she would be evaluated briefly and then released. He explained that she would be back out before the day was done. My buddy didn't bother insisting that he wanted to press charges for trespassing. I wondered why. But after the cops left, he called her ex-boyfriend's parents who, as luck would have it, had the only key to the mobile home. It was given to them by the police as it was on their son when he was arrested for domestic violence. They came out and they locked up the RV. My buddy then noticed a water leak coming from the valve, so he turned off the water to the entire park briefly, cut off the section of pipe attached to the valve, and kept it off to stop the leak. Lastly, remember how he warned the crazy lady to clean up her yard or she would get a violation? Well, she never cleaned up her yard. Instead, she threw just about everything that was in the RV into the yard. Well, as it's written in the rental agreement, my buddy cleaned her yard. He took everything that was out in the yard, TV, mattress, microwave, and so on, and he hauled it off to the dump. Then he wrote out a violation as well as a bill for having to clean her yard. Well, crazy lady got out a few hours after she was taken in, and she called her ex-boyfriend's parents to try getting a ride. They promptly hung up on her, and they immediately called us. We had plans to grill out for dinner, and my buddy invited them over for dinner and a show. She arrived after the sun had set. Well, after we had eaten dinner, we were sitting out on my buddy's patio, which had a very clear view of the mobile home. When the crazy lady saw us, she let us know how she really felt. She called us every name in the book. She hadn't gotten to the mobile home yet, and because it was dark, she couldn't even see that her yard had been cleaned. We sat there and took every name she could dish out, and we collectively laughed as we all knew what was about to happen. After she realized we were laughing at her, she hit us with a final frick you before storming off to the mobile home. As she got closer, she could see that her yard was barren. When she got to the door, she could see the notice attached. When she went to turn the door handle, it wouldn't budge. After a few moments of silence, it finally clicked in her head. She screamed out into the night, "Motherfuckers!" She must have been thirsty after her long walk because she went to the water hose only to find that it wasn't on. Then she went to turn on the water only to find that it had been capped off. No valve in sight. My buddy yelled out to her, "Sorry, there was a water leak at the valve. It was park property. So I capped it off. I'll have it repaired within the next 2 weeks though." Coincidentally, 2 weeks was the earliest time he could start the eviction process. Edit. Just to clarify, because I didn't have enough space in the story to do so, my buddy did try to get the crazy lady help. Before she had her boyfriend locked up, he told us that she was definitely bipolar and possibly schizophrenic, but she wasn't on medication for either disorder. My buddy explained that to the cops every time they came out, but they told us they couldn't do anything about it. They said that they used to be able, but not anymore. It was a screwed up situation to be sure, but there was nothing either of us could have done. He wanted her out of his hair because the crazy lady clearly had no problem with fabricating evidence, stories to get other people arrested. So he did what he had to make that happen. Not gonna lie though, my buddy definitely enjoyed doing what he had to. Oh, and the boyfriend's parents were fine with the cleansing process. They told us he was going to move back in with them while he got back on his feet, and that the only things he owned here were the mattress and the mobile home itself. That the only thing of his that got tossed was a mattress. Background: I teach Kimpo karate as a second-degree black belt. I also have an assistant, Kira, a first-degree black belt in her own right. I don't own the gym, my instructor does, but since he's gotten older, me and Kira handle the younger classes while he handles the business side of things, plus adult class. We have 3 classes: kids class, age 5 to 10, intermediate class, age 11 to 15, and the adult class, age 16 and up. The main story. So the kids class has just ended when a woman walks in with her son. She says her 13-year-old son wants to take karate class. So I shake hands with her and have her sit down with my instructor to fill out the waivers and get him his gi measurements. Other students file in for the intermediate class and me and Kira get down to business. I take the bulk of the class, around 15 kids, while Kira goes with a new student 101 to teach him basic strikes and stances. Not 5 minutes later, I hear Kira upset, telling the new boy to do 10 push-ups. Why? He called Kira, who's essentially a volunteer, a witch. Karen, the mother, stands up and says her son can't do push-ups, as she doesn't want her son to be sore. Kira lets him do the push-ups on his knees, but not 5 minutes later she makes him do 20 more, since he's now called her a slut. For reference, Kira is in her early 20s, and the boy is 13. Not to mention there is other parents and kids here as well. It is wholly inappropriate. So I walk over and ask Kira to switch with me. As she does, she gives me the bug eyes and mouth. What the hell? So I walk over and ask the boy why he insulted my assistant Kira. He said he doesn't like girls. When I asked him what he meant, he said he only listens to his dad or other boys. He won't listen to me at all. He needs some discipline. The mother confirms to me, chuckling as if raising a monster is something to laugh about. When do I get a black belt like you have? The boy asks me. Mind you, he's been punching the air the entire time. This boy is aggressively hyper. Well, it takes quite a while. I've been training since I was 5 and earned my black belt at 21. So it took me a while, I say. Nah, I don't want to wait that long. I want mine now, he says, his chubby face now red and sweaty from the shadow boxing. The mother motions me over and whispers in my ear. Do you think you could give him one, just to make him happy? No, sorry. He has to earn one. We aren't a belt factory. Well, he never gets told no. I'm sorry, but that's not how we do things here. I have money. I can pay you extra. No, sorry. We only give belts when they are earned. After several minutes of arguing and conversation that leads nowhere, Karen snaps at me. I paid you to give my son a black belt. She stands up and points a finger in my face. It was so sudden that I reflexively took a step back. Hey, chill out, lady. Some of the other parents chime in. Before I can reply to Karen, I hear a loud commotion behind me. I hear more parents and students shouting. I turn and see a new boy smacking and hitting a girl in the class. Kira is shouting, "Hey, stop!" However, this girl that the new boy is hitting is a purple belt and a little bad A of her own. She loads a front kick and hits the brat boy's center mass, right in his flabby stomach. He shouts and doubles over, crying tears of pain. I was so freaking proud of her. Hey, that little jerk hurt my son! Karen runs past me onto the mat and gets in the face of the 14-year-old girl her son just attacked. This girl is already scared and starts to cry, but Karen ups the ante and shoves this girl in the chest with her hand. Kira gets between them and is red-faced, enraged. I immediately rush over and try to defuse the situation, but neither of them are having it. Parents stand up and start shouting, "Keep your hands off my daughter!" The girl's father, who was with the other parents, yells at Karen. He starts approaching aggressively but backs off when he realizes me and Kira, both black belts, are by her. Now you should know something about Kira. She's under 5 foot, less than 110 pounds soaking wet, but she can still kick my butt up and down the mat on any given day. She's fast, accurate, and insanely flexible. She can control her body and perform techniques that I just simply can't. So Kira and Karen get into a shouting match with each other. I tell Karen to leave with her kid and don't come back. Don't you ever lay a hand on any of my students. Do you understand that? I raised my voice and was genuinely pissed off. Screw you! My son needs a black belt and you won't give him one. She screams at me. Your son is crazy. He attacked our students. Kira interjects, but this sets Karen off as she reaches and tries to witch slap Kira in the face. Ha ha ha. Big, fat mistake. Haven't had enough, Kira parries a smack and fires an absolutely vicious leg kick right into the meat of Karen's inner thigh with nothing held back. The slap sound of Kira's shin bone decimating Karen's thigh echoed off the ceiling like a slab of meat getting thrown on the floor. It was glorious. Karen gasped as she fell onto the mat in a heap. Oh my god! She held her leg as a brat boy got up and rushed at Kira. I got in front of her and grabbed the boy's wildly swinging arms. He hit me a few times, but I refused to hit children whatsoever. I let him tire himself out. One of the parents called the police. After interviewing everyone involved, they determined that Kira and myself acted in self-defense. Neither of us wanted to pursue assault charges against Karen, but the parents of the girl Karen shoved rightly felt differently about it. So Karen was hauled away in handcuffs. Karen said she'd sue me and Kira in civil court, but since we have legal waivers, Kira's hoping nothing comes of that. As for the boy, I honestly feel bad. His childhood has been robbed by piss-poor parents, and I wish we could have had more time to straighten him out. I have a particular dislike for his views of women and feel like I really could have helped turn him around. Maybe, maybe not. Hey all! Came across this subreddit on YouTube and thought I'd post about my out-of-work here lady incident from a few months ago. Now mind you, in no way do I dress like I work anywhere when I'm off the clock. I am typically in jeans or shorts, and one of my graphic tees. Sci-fi or pagan-related, nerdy witch but nothing offensive. And boots. Now, I'm also clumsy and can trip over a flat surface. This comes up in the story. Also, sorry for the lens. So my husband and I went to a local Asian market in our city a few months ago. We wanted to stock up for the second lockdown we figured was coming from the upcoming flu season, and COVID cases have been going up in the area again. We typically enjoy a more East Asian diet than your typical American, not weebos or anything, just found it a healthier diet, more flavorful, and I might love rice way too much. Anyway, this market is a seafood market, a large one and smells like it. Again, this comes up. And they have a lot of stuff you'd not typically find in a smaller international store. We are used to being the only white folks there a majority of the time. But the staff is amazing and super friendly. So Happy and I walk into the market, grab a cart that we head off to get our supply of rice, noodles, real instant ramen, not that plastic stuff marketed in American grocery stores, and juices. Happy was looking over the various rice bag, deciding how big we wanted to go for the stocking up, and I told him I'd go to the ramen section and start looking over what they have this month. Stock doesn't stay the same necessarily, and you can find real good ramen sometimes. Anyway, looking over the selection, I grab a ramen that's in a ball. Great idea if you want less cleanup after a 10-hour shift or doing tech support, and I knock about half a dozen other packages down. Like I said, clumsy. I kneel down to collect the various items on the floor to put back and stand up to ensure the next person doesn't repeat what I did. And then she shows up. Karen. Hair, clothes, shoes, purse, jewelry, sunglasses, and overly offensive perfume. There has to be class on this, a take on how to get the uniform right. So the cast is as follows. Me, the racist Karen's husband, my partner, market employee, store manager, and cops 1 and 2. As she walks up to me, I'd seen her out of the corner of my eye. She grabs me by the arm with her plastic claws and tries to spin me. But being a larger guy, I don't move easy. Excuse me, but I need help and you're the only American I see working here. Me, removing my arm from her grip. Ma'am, I don't work here. I'm just looking over the ramen selection. And I don't know who the hell you are, but don't you put your hands on me if you want to keep them. Mind you, I don't react well to be treated as a punching bag under the best of times. I am so done with people attitude most days, and I have a deep seizing dislike of entitled people. I worked food service and retail for several years, as well as a janitor. Those jobs really show you who people are. Of course you do. I saw you stocking the shelf. And don't you dare threaten me. I'll have your job. Ma'am, I knocked these over and was putting them back like a decent human being. And you touched me first. That's assault. And why do you foul C-word always want someone's job for you being a stupid short-sighted witch? The racist Karen's voice, now shrieking in typical Karen fashion. How dare you? Where is your manager? I'll have you fired. Again, you dumb witch, I don't work here, so you can't have my non-existent job. Now, at this stage, my partner turns into the aisle behind her, and he has that look on his face of, I pity whomever set him off. Now at this stage, my partner turns into the aisle behind her and has that look on their face of, I pity whomever set him off. Hey hun, you alright? Yeah, just dealing with a wild feral Karen. Karen turns to my partner and says, mind your own business. Now another man turns into the aisle next to my partner, and by the look on his face, it's her husband, and he's already slumping his shoulder in defeat. Apparently, this is a regular thing for the poor guy. And I also hear someone coming up behind me. I turn and it's an employee I'm acquainted with. She's wonderfully funny and always has a smile on her face and has a slight accent. Is everything alright? I heard yelling. Yes, you freaking racist slur for Asians. This worker refuses to help me, assaulted me, and threatened my life. Seriously, there has to be a classic Karen you for lying on your feet. Frick you, lady. How dare you use that word? If I wanted to hurt you, you'll be on the freaking floor right now. Her husband still has a defeated look. Karen, must you? Again? Why do you have to do this? I say, again? The employee says, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Not until you fire this slur. Now my partner steps in between me and her and uses that firm, soft tone that can make my blood run cold. Now look here, you dumb, entitled inbred mistake. He doesn't work here. Now leave him alone, or he will be the least of your worries. Karen, again who is a Karen you training, slaps my partner. The employee runs off. I'm guessing to get her boss. Partner didn't flinch or anything. Military training. The hell? I pull my partner back as a racist Karen's husband grabs his wife. That's enough. I told you before not to ever put your hands on other people. Her husband yells at her. I say, seriously? How many times has she done that? I'm not really surprised by this when I think back. Typical entitled Karen behavior in all honesty. The employee is back with the store manager behind her. The store manager, from my understanding, she's part of the owner's family and is second or third generation American. What in the world is going on here? Well, dumbass Karen here thought I was an employee, assaulted me and my partner, all while using a racial slur against your employee. Karen, for her part, is so red and enraged that she actually can't speak. I'd never realized that was a function of a Karen. I thought they always had words for any situation. Her husband says, I'm so sorry for this. She's off her meds. Partner adds, obviously, she also needs a higher dosage. The husband says, we'll just leave. The store manager adds, no, you will not. Not if she physically assaulted two customers, as well as used hate speech against an employee. Karen finds her voice and shoots, all you freaking racial slur for Asians are the same. Useless. No wonder this place smells so foul. You people can't even clean properly. Then she turns to me and my partner, and she says, and you two are freaking worse. Now Karen had gotten out of her husband's hold, pulled out her phone and does the most Karen thing you can think of. She calls the police and lies about an assault on her. The store manager says, fine, let's play your game. She turns to the employee and says, please go meet the officers at the door and bring them here. The employee leaves and comes back about 5 minutes later with two officers in tow. Not surprising they are fast in responding. There is usually a patrol car and a lot, clocking speeders going down the street. Now the officers don't even get a word in at all as Karen goes in white woman / Karen fake crying about how she was assaulted by my partner and a racial slur against Asians. The officers don't look too happy, but also unbothered by the show. I admit, this surprised me. Cop 1 directs his question to the husband and says, again? Karen's husband responds, yeah, sorry. My partner and I look at each other in surprise. I say, officer, she physically assaulted myself, my partner, and used hate speech against the store manager and the employee. Also, what do you mean again? Cop 2 says, she's a known problem child. My partner, again with a firm and soft tone, and why is she allowed to run free like a feral jackal? Karen tries to speak, but Cop 1 puts up his hand and silences her. Doesn't work. She goes on about how she's a victim in all of this. Typical. Cop 1 asks, would you like to press charges? Me, my partner, and the store manager say, yes. Karen's husband takes her phone and purse just as Cop 2 gives her some beautiful new silver bracelets, and she loses what she has left on what sanity she had and tries to use the back of her hand to hit the officer in the face. Cop 2 back away out of reaction as Cop 1 pulls out his taser and puts her down. Karen's husband puts her phone in her purse, hands it to Cop 1, pulls out his phone and looks down at Karen as Cop 2 is getting her up. That's it, I'm done. I am calling our lawyer for a divorce. I can't deal with this anymore. I am unsure what language Karen was trying to speak as she got back on her feet, and Cop 1 and 2 escorted her out. The husband followed, looking embarrassed as can be, and finally having his shoulders squared and confident. The store manager apologized and asked if she could give us a discount on our groceries, but we declined. We honestly were more worried about the store manager and employee being verbally assaulted instead of what we had said and done to us. We're those kind of people. They both said they were fine, and the employee walked with us for a few minutes, and we chatted while the store manager went to speak with the cops. Now fast forward to our recent court date. The store manager and the employee decided to drop the hate speech charges, but Karen is banned for life from their store, as well as about a dozen others. Apparently the community doesn't want her around causing trouble. Karen pled guilty, but isn't serving jail time. She has to go to court-ordered anger management therapy and is on parole for the next 4 years. The judge apparently wasn't having any of her fake tears, she saw through it all, and I was living for it. Karen was told that if she misses just one appointment for anger management and/or therapy, or her parole officer reports she isn't taking her meds, her parole will be jail time. We were also rewarded damages that Karen had to pay, or again, jail time. Her husband was there and seemed years younger since we'd seen him. They are divorced. He has a kids, and Karen has to have supervised visitations. He apologized to us for Karen, saying he was just embarrassed about it all, but happy with how it turned out. He had a wicked smile when he said that she deserved every bit of what she got.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.